everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Ray, What Ray Reads. Follow me on Instagram and follow me on TikTok because why not? It's currently 22 degrees in Liverpool and I am melting. Yeah, I do feel like a journalist with this microphone. If you're not already, don't forget to subscribe and join us. Why not? Today I thought I want to do another reading list, but what one do I want to do? Let's do a reading list of queer books that I've enjoyed or I really want to read from my shelves. This is going to be a list of books written by or about LGBTQIA+ characters or authors, and I just want to say that this is a safe space and it always will be for everyone because we're inclusive over here, okay? Some of the best books that I've ever had the pleasure of reading have been by and about queer characters and that shine a light on the uniqueness of life and individuals and how complex and rich our inner lives can be. So without further ado, let's get into the books. First off, I will say that we're going to start with some books that I've read and then we're going to move into books that I've got on the shelves that I haven't gotten to yet but are really high on my priority TBR. Okay, so the first book on the list is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. This is a love story between two women whose relationship and marriage is tested when one of them, who's a marine biologist, goes on a deep sea mission and she comes back, shall we say, a very different person.
What the fuck is going on in here on this day?
After a prolonged period of time, she appears to have changed or not be the person that a wife fell in love with. This is a very eerie story and one that may not appear to what you expect it's going to be when you read it. I felt very unsettled when I was reading it.
I'm scared.
But I liked that it shined a light on the lengths that people will go to protect and support the loved ones no matter what and help them through whatever they're dealing with. There are aspects of the book that focus more on the start and the happier times in the relationship, but also the idea of the aspects of you losing your partner in life and how you will go on with that. I loved the slow burn of this story. It was very, as I mentioned, eerie and unsettling. I sort of didn't know what was going to happen until the end. And it's one that kind of has a bit of an open ending, so you can have your own interpretation of what you think happened. But deep down, it's the day-to-day connection between two women in a marriage and how all that is ultimately changed after a tragedy. The next book is a book I've mentioned in a few other videos, but I really enjoyed it, and that is The Safekeep by Yael van der Wouden. Set in the countryside in the Netherlands. Post-World War II, we follow Isabel, a young woman who's living alone in her large family home. She's highly strung and tightly wound, and the only connection she really has is that with her maid, a family friend, and her two brothers. One day, her carefully maintained life and world is turned upside down when her brother's latest partner comes to live with her in the home, and she's everything that Isabel isn't. She's loud, she's opinionated, she dresses in what some would consider an uncouth manner. The two women are complete opposites and don't get along at first, but her presence in the home starts making Isabel question feelings that she's pushed deep down, and she allows herself to explore aspects of her sexuality that she wouldn't usually, or she'd deny for a long time. The book reads like a film. It's very cinematic. Its characters are rich and complex, somewhat unlikable but deeply readable, and it has a twist at the end that you won't see coming. Next is Detransition Baby by Torrey. This is a complex story about the aftermath of a relationship between Reese and a trans woman named Ames, formerly known as Amy, who was once in a relationship with Reese. But since then, Amy has decided to detransition and she's in a relationship with a cis woman who falls pregnant, and they invite Reese into their dynamic to help raise the child. We follow their daily lives in New York City, the ups and downs of the relationship and the dynamic, and throughout the book we get different points of view and backstories for each character, from Ames and Reese's life before and after, as well as their complex inner lives and them questioning what's important to them and what they want in life, all the while sprinkling humour and lightness throughout. I loved how this book centres the characters in the rich city setting, which is basically like another character, and allows them space to explore themselves themselves, question themselves and be who they want to be, and how complex and multifaceted that journey can be for people, and they need the space to do it. And I recently went to a book event with Torrey for a new book, Stag Dance, and when she was talking about Detransition Baby, she mentioned that it was kind of like her version of Sex and the City, with the different characters and what they get up to in their daily lives, the dating life, the friendships, etc. And I just really liked the way she described it as that. It's just a group of friends who are trying to sort of navigate the 20s and 30s and their daily antics. So they're the books that I've read that I recommend. Now we're going to move on to the books that are on my shelf that I still haven't read.
Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise.
But are very high on my TBR for this year. Young Mungo by Douglas Stuart. This is a story set in Glasgow in the 1990s. We follow a teenager named Mongo who is growing up and coming of age in working class Glasgow. He lives on a housing estate. He's experiencing neglect and poverty, and also coming to terms with his own sexuality and the feelings that he has for his friend. It's also said to touch on religion and how that can divide people instead of connecting them. And it's also said to tackle masculinity and the societal attitudes and ideas of what it is to be masculine, and how it impacts men's growth and connection to each other, but also to the family and to society. And it forces them to sort of deny who they are for fear that they won't be accepted, especially in sort of insular communities. And as someone who grew up in social housing and around some of the themes that are touched on up in this book, I'm very familiar with this world, and I'm sort of kicking myself for not having read it already. I also haven't read Chukwuebuka, which is also on the TBR, so there's that to contend with. Now I've got a problem. But I just feel like I'm going to love this book and it's going to emotionally destroy me. Plus, I've seen nothing but positive reviews, so I need to read it. And so do you. Next is Real Life by Brandon Taylor. This is said to be a coming-of-age story set over a weekend in the summer that follows a young queer black man who goes off to university. He's grieving the loss of his father. He's from Alabama, but he's in this very white, privileged university setting with a lot of academics. He's questioning his life, he's questioning his relationships with past partners and friends, he's questioning his academic choices and whether all of this is sort of worth it. He's in a bit of a crossroads, and he's also noticing that he's one of the only black gay men in his community, in his campus, in his circle. And he said in the book, it said that he explores the nuances in friendship groups, the highs and the lows, the drama, but also how these friendship groups and communities enrich our lives and push us to try new things, to have new experiences, and gives us someone to lean on in the chaos of life. This sounds very millennial. I'm on board. And it seems like a very contemporary, relevant look at 20 or 30 somethings who are at that crossroads in life, and they may be questioning things or wondering what the point of certain things is. And you know what they say, it's the journey.
Oh, really?
So I'm very much looking forward to reading this, and I can see it staring at me right now. Next is The House of Impossible Beauties by Joseph Cassara, a book that has been on my TBR for a criminally long time, 2 years, and one that I keep saying I'm going to read, but I still haven't. This is a story set in 80s New York City in the drag ball culture scene. We follow characters that are involved in this vibrant, exciting community, how it's full of creativity and self-expression. We have characters from different walks of life and backgrounds, and it heavily draws on real life characters, but it's fictionalised. And we follow these characters as they find the community, find their found family after maybe being ostracised by the family for who they are, and how they find connection and inspiration through dance, music, drag, pop culture, and just a sense of self-expression in a place that's theirs, where they can be who they truly, authentically want to be. But it also sheds a light on the daily realities at the time in the 80s, when the queer culture was hit with the AIDS epidemic, and how they had to fight for support and help, and how they were supporting and helping each other as they always have done. And if I remember rightly, I think I found out about this book after watching the TV series Pose, which I was obsessed with, because a lot of the characters in the book have similar names to the characters in the show, but I also think that's because they're based on real people. I may be incorrect though. And it also reminds me of one of my favourite documentaries, which is Paris is Burning by Jenny Livingston. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend. It's about the ballroom culture, and it follows the actual people, the culture that they created, which is constantly referenced to this day by lots of people in pop culture, and these are the real people that created it. So I highly recommend that, and I absolutely can't wait to read this book, and I'm just like, why have you not read it already? Next is Disappoint Me by Nicola Dinan. This is one I've been anticipating reading it since hearing about last year, I think. And this is the latest book from the author of Bellies. This book's said to be a look at the relationships of millennial women and how they're kind of fed up of the grind of essentially having to constantly go on dating apps and meet people, and it's a traumatic experience, and they're finding people aren't that great on there and they're just fed up.
Not on my watch.
And we follow Max, a trans woman who's just simply over it, and then one day she meets a lawyer and they embark on a fairly traditional heteronormative relationship dynamic full of dinner parties, meeting the friends, work parties, and a lot of domesticity. But deep down they each have their own baggage and they need to sort of deal with it in order for this relationship to flourish. And this is said to be a sharp look at millennial angst, heteronormativity, and the complexity and frustrations of modern day relationship dynamics. I will say that I did DNF her previous book Bellies, but I just couldn't get into it, and at the time I was kind of sick, and maybe if I read it today I may enjoy it, but still I want to give her latest book a chance because I love stories that centre millennial characters at a millennial, so I'm on board. And the final book of the queer reading list is Blessings by Chukwuebuka Ibeh. I put this on my TBR after seeing a lot of my bookish friends raving about it and recommending it, and it's set in Nigeria and follows a young boy who is starting to come to terms with the fact that he may be gay, and he's sent off to a very strict Catholic school to try and sort of suppress who he is. And as he's trying to sort of come to terms and understand who he is and his sexuality amidst a very deeply homophobic society and culture, he's grappling with the fact that he may sort of lose his connection with his family, but he doesn't want to deny who he is. And it's said to touch on the fears and the lasting impact of homophobia and discovering that you're gay in a country that criminalises same-sex relationships, but how ultimately people will be and should be allowed to be who they want to be, and they'll seek out and find community with each other, and they'll find the support that they need in these circumstances. And it sounds like a rich character study about a character that is very complex and multi-layered, and it's just been highly recommended to me, so I really want to read it. So those are the books. Hopefully there's something in there that you think, I'm going to check that out. If you have any queer LGBTQIA plus book recommendations, leave them in the comments below for me and everyone else to check out. If you made it this far in the video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe because it really helps me out and it helps other people find the channel. Don't forget that this is an inclusive space and you're all welcome here. Hugs. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!